So I really wanted to give this chapter like at least a 9 out of 10 because I just really enjoyed it. I felt like it was a dope plot twist at the end, and overall I really felt like it was just exciting, and it just felt really interesting the way things were turning out at the end of this chapter. But there were some things in this chapter that I felt like it just wasn't adding up certain timelines. It felt like plot inconsistencies with some of the events that happened, and I'll explain. Now, assuming that the fairy tale adventure that they had prior to the 7-year time skip was in the span of 1 year, then it has been 7 years since Leon tried to revive Deliora and tried to defeat him, and Deliora basically resurrected for a split second and then died because he was so weak from ore sapping his energy all that time. So it's been 7 years since Deliora's death, so to speak, if he was indeed alive at that particular point. But in this chapter, Deliora, if that is indeed Deliora, because I have my reservations and I'll explain that later as well, but he kept referring to it as it's been over 10 years. He kept saying it's been over 10 years since that happened, and it's almost as if he's referring to, first of all, he's excluding that there was a 7-year gap between what happened in Galuna Island and this particular event, you know, the 7 years. It's almost as if he's just referring to straight up, like, 7 years never passed, and he's talking about when Gray was a little kid that ore trapped him into that ice, and he's talking as if he died at that particular point. Because if that was the case, then what was that when pretty much the ice started melting and he was alive for a split second? He started roaring. So was he already dead at that particular point? Things need to be explained a little bit better, and regardless of what, it still seems a little bit odd that he would keep referring to, oh yeah, over 10 years ago. So let's just say it was 10 years ago, or even almost 11 years, whatever. At the end of the day, 7-year time skip happened, and then you take away 3 years, Gray would have been like 15 with, you know, within these events that he's talking about, and Gray obviously wasn't 15 in the past, so definitely some time inconsistencies regarding when all of this actually happened. So did Silver resurrect the minute, you know, he was frozen by ore, or is he referring to, and again, if it was indeed when he melted down because, you know, he was trying to be revived by Leon was trying to revive him, I doubt Gray's dad's body would just be around there all this time. It's been, you know, a long time since Gray was a little boy and his dad died, and that particular point. So definitely that was one of the things that just was kind of bugging me. It's like, so when did Silver, if this is indeed, you know, Deliora, when was he revived? Was he revived the moment that he was frozen? So what was that thing that was inside of that ice all that particular time? Definitely makes you question a lot of things. Now, with all that being said, at the beginning of this chapter, it was like on some Star Wars, Luke, I am your father type of shit. When he said that, it was like, we already, for the most part, you know, assumed that this was, you know, I've been saying, I'm imagining that it's somebody else within his body or some shit. But for it to be Deliora, that makes things a lot more interesting because that goes back in time to Gray's history. And I really like how it's blowing open Gray's history even more. And it's really sad if you think about it that Or's death was, if this is indeed Deliora, for nothing. And since I keep on saying if this is indeed Deliora, let me explain what I'm referring to by that, because I truly think that even if that is Deliora inside there, possibly either Ul or Gray's father is in there as well in some fashion or another. Because first of all, the first time we've seen Silver, he was looking at a grave. He was looking at like some cross-shaped tomb, and he was like, hey, I'm at a grave, can you give me a moment now? Was he there getting his rocks off looking at the grave? Or was he like honoring the person that was under there? Was it him making sure that there's a grave there? There's some questions you can ask, but to me it looked like he was there paying some respects of some sort, whether it be to Gray's dead mother, whether it be to Ur. There was something there that I felt like, he's a demon, but then he's saying I only eat demons as well. So it already had me a little bit suspicious with that. But then also, when Natsu and Lisana were jailed, you know, they were imprisoned, he was the one that helped them to escape. I believe he kicked the sword to them or something. He hasn't seemed like he's completely evil. So there's definitely something to him, whether Ur is like revived within him or Gray's father is in there as well. Because the way he was talking as well, he was basically saying, the part about your father being alive is true. I assure you, it's no lie. So maybe there's a possibility that Gray's father was revived mentally inside of there with Deliora. So there's two people at once. The possibility is a stretch, but you never know. And that was definitely the best parts of this chapter. This chapter, the stuff with Gray and Silver, it was just like, oh, it had me so excited. You have some of the other bits. You see, okay, the fight is continuing. You got Natsu versus Tempesta. You got Gajil with Torafusa. You got a couple different fights going on, but the one that kind of connects mostly because, again, I feel like right now, everything that's going on is really Gray and Silver-centric. And when Juvia is fighting, Keith tells her, you know, that boy's gonna, his story ends today. She's like, what? So I really wouldn't mind A very serious one, not no, you know, oh, hey, good day, Summer, none of that bullshit. Let's get a serious, groovier moment going where she comes in and is like, I don't give a fuck, you know, I love this guy, and shit gets real serious, because the way it was described at the end of the chapter, as if Gray might even consider using that same technique that Ori used, it would be backwards development. I think that at this particular point, he shouldn't be thinking in that way, no matter how angry he is, because we already addressed this hundreds of chapters ago when he was about to do that, and Natsu was like, you fool, what are you doing? And Natsu really gave him some words of wisdom and told him, you know, stop being a fucking idiot about this shit. So for him to even attempt that, it would kind of be like a slap in the face to that development he crossed over hundreds of chapters ago. So I hope he's really not considering that. But I would like, at this particular point, especially the way it was like hyping up like Julia's about to flip out, if she would go there and we have some crazy Julia and Gray combo fighting against him, her saying at the end of the day, I love this guy, you know, something like that would really be interesting. Also, I wouldn't mind seeing at this particular point if Leon showed up. I don't know how he would show up or why he would show up, because he wouldn't obviously know this at this point, but he definitely had some huge relevance to this, because at the end of the day, he was one of the people that was trying to revive Deliora, which, again, this needs to be in continuity. I really want Hiro to hash this out properly, because if there was a 7-year time skip and he's talking about over 10 years ago, things aren't adding up unless just Silver has no sense of time and forgot that there was a fucking 10 years between when he died and now. And also again, was Gray's father's body just hanging out there for like fucking decades upon decades, just dead under the rubble, and it didn't, you know, start corroding? Just quickly wanted to mention, I like how Lucy was still trying to get up, still saying, you know, I could help, and it's like, girl, you've done enough. You did more than enough. Don't worry, get your rest. Lucy haters, sit down. She already did enough. And overall, while I really wanted to give this one like a 9 or 9.5 out of 10, I felt like it was great. Didn't really care again for the 2 Dragon Slayers going up against Margear, which Margear, he's still holding his book. There's no fucking threat to him. He's fighting and he's still holding his book and still talking shit to them like y'all nothing. So, mismatch. But the continuity and consistency is what's making me a little bit iffy on the situation. It's kind of like, does Silver have a bad concept of time? Is that not completely Silver in there? Is he bullshitting? Is that not really Deliora? Because he's like, don't make me go into my true form. You don't want to see that. Maybe that's not really Deliora. Who knows? There's still some possibilities out there. And just overall with the times is not adding up properly. So for this particular chapter, while I wanted to give it a 9 to 9.5, I'm leaning between, I'll probably give it an 8 out of 10 for now. If indeed things get, you know, polished up later on, then you could go back and I'll say, well, okay, I ended up giving this a 9 or a 9.5. But for right now, it just seems a little wonky with a lot of the times and a lot of different things that was said. But excitement-wise, I'm not going to lie, with chapters like this and a lot of the chapters we've been having recently, excluding some of the Sting and Rogue stuff, but this has just been shaping up to be probably, if not the best, then top 3 best fairy tale arcs of the entire series, period. I mean, chapters like this, again, another plot twist where it's like, okay, yeah, that's his father's skin, but that's Deliora, and that's going back to the beginning. And one of the best characters as far as, like, you know, just having an interesting and sad backstory is indeed Gray. And to go back and dive into that and make it even more fucked up, his teacher died for nothing? Yeah, that's definitely adding to it. And overall, again, this is shaping up to be probably the best arc in all of Fairy Tail. Let me know what you guys think. First of all, what is up with this whole over 10 years ago thing? Is he referring to basically he died back when Gray was a little kid and he's just excluding the fact that there was 7 years after, you know, the events on Galuna Island? Like, can somebody make sense of all this? Or at this particular point, it's just kind of wonky as fuck. And just overall thoughts of the chapter, I ain't gonna lie, this got me excited as fuck. Just seeing like, is Deliora there? Could he go into that massive form? Could they possibly defeat him? Because the way Deliora was hyped from the beginning of the series, it was almost as if Mashima didn't have him get completely revived because he knew it's too early to show the power of a demon from Zero's book. Just overall thoughts of the chapter, but that's all I have for this review. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed, you can do so as well. That'd be awesome. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day.